What is happening? AJ Game Dude here, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Xbox. And usually, when I talk about Xbox, it's never ever really good news, to be completely fair. Though, with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this question because I'm going to pose an interesting conundrum to you. Did Phil Spencer kill Xbox? A lot of people would say yes. A lot of people would say no. We're going to put that in our back pocket for a moment because Phil Spencer is, as this article says, blaming capitalism on running a profitable business, and more specifically, the fact that PTCs, or publicly traded companies, have to keep constantly showing growth. So this is the idea of when you put your company out on the market in order for people to buy stocks, shares, what have you. So pretty much giving people the ability to become shareholders by purchasing shares of a company, unless you are consistently, offering value by growing the business, making those services better, products better, and things like that. Ultimately, the people who benefit the most are going to be the company first and then the shareholder second. Of course, if something negative were to happen, of course, the inverse would occur across both parties. With that being said, though, something that is quite unfortunate is that pretty much, I guess this is kind of the quote that I was wanting to get to, and it's quite literally in the title, but the fact that I don't get the luxury of not having to run a profitable, growing business. And this relates to the fact that when people buy shares in a company, they expect not a little bit of growth, not for things to remain stagnant. They want exponential growth. The concept or the idea of the line go up. Whether it be money over time, money on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, you want that to go up. Because time will always consistently pass, but money usually doesn't, and it needs to be on an exponential curve. What that means is that rather than if I earn $1 one day and then I earn $1 the next day at my lemonade stand that I just made 5 minutes ago, that's not gonna be good enough for someone who's buying shares in my lemonade stand. If I sell for $1, I need to sell for $5, $10 the next day, and then the day after that has to be 100, 1,000. It needs to keep growing to an extent that just doesn't make sense ultimately at the end of the day. And what he says is that pretty much it says right here is a lack of growth across the video game industry as a whole. When you have an industry that is projected to be smaller next year in terms of players and dollars, you get a lot of publicly traded companies, or PTCs, that are in the industry that show their investors growth. But why does somebody own a share of someone's stock if it's not going to grow? The side of the business that gets scrutinized is the cost side, Spencer said, because if you're not going to grow on the revenue side, then the cost becomes challenged. Pretty much the idea of, if you're going to be spending this sort of money, you need to make up that money. The whole idea of you need to spend money to make money, that's kind of what's being talked about. But ideally, he's trying to keep the CEO side of him afloat while trying to also capitulate to the customers of Xbox. And I'm not talking about the shareholders, I'm talking specifically about people who buy the consoles and play the games. How do you make everyone happy? Because I'm pretty sure he would like to make a lot of different types of games that people haven't seen in forever. But because of the passage of time and how expensive things have gotten, had he done this 10 years ago, we would be in a very, very different place. In terms of buying something like, say, Blizzard Entertainment, for example. If that was done maybe not 10, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, Xbox would be in a very different place right now. They would have so many more exclusives. They would have so many more different types of games of varying quality that would be there on the marketplace for Xbox players. However, of course, it's worth keeping in mind that even during that time, Call of Duty did feel like it was in a bit of a lull, but it's not like Blizzard was in a position to sell or to find a golden parachute for Bobby Kotick, though in the end he did get one, albeit much later in the form of a last year or this year, so somewhere around that time. But yeah, and then I kind of like read through this article, and then I got to the final paragraph, which really did hit for a bit, which was there is a clear aspect of don't hate the player in all this, but he's not wrong, and he's kind of being surprisingly honest about it, which is something that I've heard a lot of people talk about in the industry, that Phil Spencer is actually weirdly upfront, despite being like, you know, the CEO of a company. But yeah, the fact that like money is constantly being funneled into the industry through PTCs and things like that is just not really worth it if that constant growth isn't happening. And then there's everything that's happening on the games, I want to say the games news industry, whatever you want to call it, that's game reporting and things like that. A lot of companies are getting rid of people in that sort of space as well, whether it be getting rid of people from Game Informer, getting rid of people from The Escapist. Like, lots of people are up and leaving because a lot of capitalist vultures are actually trying to get more money out of companies and trying to make them do things that they're not supposed to. Kotaku, for example, I didn't make a video on this, but they are going to be made to do 50 articles of, not 50 articles, like 50 guides a week, which is almost impossible to do because it really depends on what kind of guide you're talking about and just anything and everything beyond that point as well. Now we kind of go back to the original question of, did Phil Spencer kill Xbox? Because this is all stuff about, you know, Phil just kind of, you know, being a little bit more sort of upfront forward about how things have kind of been in GDC and things along those lines. And now I'm just going to go down to the final sort of paragraph of this particular article on Phil Spencer, long cast as Xbox savior, may be remembered as the man who killed it. And this is by Nathan Brown, so definitely worth checking out at VGC or Video Games Chronicles. Here we go. So this is kind of the last bit that I wanted to kind of cover about him, and this is where the original question kind of came from. To be clear, I feel bad for Spencer. He seems like a decent sort. I think he's come into this with the best of intentions and in a parallel universe, and this time I personally theorize it would probably been like 7 or 8 years ago, but in this article it says parallel universe, where every horse he backed romped home, he would be credited with transforming or perhaps even saving the game industry. In another, where instead of spending $70 billion on Activision Blizzard, he spent it on 230 odd games with the same budget as Spider-Man 2, perhaps Xbox is flying. But in a world where he has spent 10 years and gargantuan amounts of money taking Xbox from third place to third place, and that is not the market's fault. If the writing isn't on the wall for Xbox as a whole, then it certainly could be for him. Which is really sad to know, because the thing is that he was been trying to kind of recover the Xbox brand from what happened in 2013, which he has quoted as being the worst generation to have lost. He might not necessarily have killed it, but he didn't do much, or he did not do enough to help the image, the brand, the overall first party output has been lacking, and all of that put together has made things much harder, given that things are now much more expensive, games take a lot longer to make. They might as well be backed into a corner for those few reasons. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Personally, I don't think he killed the brand. I think the brand died with what was his face? The guy in 2013 who was the Xbox CEO, I can't remember his name, but that guy. Pretty much the guy before Phil Spencer. He was probably the one who killed the brand, and it's just been sort of bleeding out slowly over the years. as Phil Spencer tried to, patch up the wounds, but ultimately didn't really benefit much at all. But that's kind of just what I think. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, or anything that I've talked about in regards to the Xbox business, CEOs, or anything and everything else in between. With all that said and done though, subscribe, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 200 subs by the end of the year, and I do want my videos to go to more people. With all that said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.